Welcome back to the kitchen. It's Saturday afternoon. This morning I just picked a bunch of fresh tomatoes. So today I'm gonna make tomato pie. I'll be making a pie and also I'm gonna make some single servings for the freezer. I'm gonna make 2 recipes of pie crust. I think it's gonna fit into this water bowl. So it's gonna be 3 cups of flour, roughly. A pinch of salt. Of course, the butter. So for 3 cups of flour, I'm gonna put in about 10 tablespoons of butter. So this block is 16 tablespoons. Right. So half would be 8. And then that's 4. 10 tablespoons. And the trick to this is to cut it into ruler pieces. The smaller you cut it, the faster it's gonna come together. Okay, and then we're gonna need some really cold water. People say ice water, so we'll do ice. So I got some ice water. I don't know how much I'm gonna need, so for now this is good. So the first thing we want to do is coat the pieces of butter. And then try to crumble it up without melting it. I don't have one of those gadgets, the pie cutter thingy. At least I don't think I do, but we can use a fork or 2 forks to do this. All you want to do is crush them with your fork and keep moving it in the flour. So the smaller you're getting the butter pieces, each of those will be recoated with flour, right? With this process. So this may take a little bit. Yes, it's great if you have a food processor and you do it in there. I just feel like by the time I take it out and use it and wash it after, This just takes, it's just quicker. So how do you know you had done this long enough? You know it because the flour, if you look at the flour I started with, I don't know if you can tell, the flour turned yellow. That means you have incorporated the butter into your flour enough. Okay, so you're still gonna see pieces, that's okay. We'll get that worked in. Now, ice water. You just do it slowly because you don't know how much you really need. It varies. You want to make it so it's not quite wet. It's still gonna appear dry, but it will start coming together. So it's hard to describe it. Once you've done a couple of these, you'll know. Okay, so some parts is coming together, but some is still dry. Probably gonna put about 5 or 6 tablespoons of water. So what is that, a quarter cup? If that. So what you can try is test it. If you squeeze it, will it stay together? If it's still too crumbly, put more water. Okay. Let's try this again. I think a little more. Oops. Just a little more. Okay. So now it's like in big clumps, sort of. Take some plastic wrap or plastic bag or something like that. I need a big enough to wrap this in. I'm not sure if it's going to be big enough, so you want to put it in and start working it together. Into a block. So, using the wrap, you can make this into a block. Go back there. Since I'm making a double recipe, it's kind of harder to do. Probably I could have done 2 small recipes instead. Here we are. And I'm just going to chill this a little bit for about 15 minutes and I'll come back and start working on it by layering it. And you can see butter pieces in there, that's perfect. I'm just going to put it on a plate, and this way it's easier to move it around. Into the fridge. So while that's chilling, I'm going to clean up and I'm going to start on my tomatoes. The 2 recipe I'm making, I'm going to need 4 large tomatoes for each recipe, but I don't have large tomatoes. I'm going to use my purple Cherokee tomatoes mostly because they're really good for this, and I have some other large size tomatoes. I'm going to cut these with a serrated knife because I want to cut them sort of thin slices. I'll first cut the smaller ones. I'm gonna put them in a colander. And I will salt them once I have enough in there to salt. So I have a good amount of sliced tomatoes. Now I'm gonna put in 2 big pinches of salt. Again, because I'm doing a double recipe, I'll massage these so it can soak in the salt. And I'm gonna let this sit for about 15 minutes while I'm waiting for the crust. Again, I'll just clean up. Here's my wok. So we'll make it into a square as much as possible for first go around. And we're gonna put a little flour so it doesn't stick. And now I'm gonna roll it out so I can layer it. Okay, so now you're gonna pick it up. I don't need this anymore. I don't need that anymore. And fold it. You can pick up all these sticky pieces. And now we're gonna roll it again. Because what you want to do is press the butter between flour layers. It doesn't have to be pretty at this point. So I'm gonna do this like 4 or 5 times. It doesn't have to be done a whole lot. You don't want to over process it because then you will mix the flour and the butter together, and that's not what you're going for. The more you work it, it's easier because it's less sticky on the surface. Again, you don't want to really put more flour in it because that's going to make it tough. Let's go this way a little bit. Okay, and now last fold I'm gonna do like that. Again, I want it to kind of stick together, the layers. And now we'll wrap this up and put it in the fridge again for 15 minutes. Goes to the fridge. I usually would shred my own cheese, but the shredded cheese in the other store that I don't go often have been on sale, so I'm gonna do just that, use those up. So this has 2 cups of cheese in it. I'm gonna just put half of this. So a cup of cheddar cheese, and a cup of mozzarella, but I'm also going to put a little bit of Parmesan as well. You don't have to, it's just extra. About a cup of mayo. Probably a little more because I did put more cheese than normal, having to do 2 batch or 2 recipes really. I think I'm going to need more cheese. So make it a cup and a half of cheddar and a cup and a half Parmesan. So 3 cups total. Oh, that's Parmesan. No, mozzarella. Okay. So this is 1.5 cup mozzarella, 1.5 cup sharp cheddar, and a half a cup of Parmesan. Mix that up with however much mayo you need to make it like a paste. I probably need a little more mayo for mine. Because I want to also do a bacon, I'm going to turn on my oven 375 and cook it in there on a tray. Just to show you, my tomato released a lot of liquid and I haven't even squeezed it yet. I'm also gonna need basil leaves. I'm gonna chop those up the last moment because I don't want them to brown. You need about 20 leaves for 2 recipes. For the tomatoes, I'm gonna squeeze them into the sink. So just push them. It doesn't matter because they don't have to stay like nicely sliced. You'll see they're gonna cook down anyway. I'm really just squeezing it, not crushing it, if that makes sense. I'm gonna need some flour. The rolling pin. And here's my double recipe pie crust. So first of all, I'm gonna cut it into 2 pieces. This is the first one, you see the layers? This will be for the big pie dish, and then later on I'm gonna make 3 small single serving pies. So I'm gonna cut them into 3, but I'll put these back into the fridge for now. Make sure I'm gonna flour my rolling pin and start rolling it. So I do want to make it into sort of round shape, because my pie the pie dish, I need to make it this size, right? I don't want to really put more flour into it, but I don't want it to stick either. So try working this a little fast. So don't be like doing other things in the meantime, because if it starts melting the butter, it's gonna start sticking more and more. That's the last thing we want. So what you want to do is try to make it much bigger than your pie dish. So because it has to go on the side, right? Up on the side. And because it rested enough in the fridge, it's actually easy to roll it. It doesn't like it doesn't spring back. It's more square than round, but that's okay. We'll use up the leftovers. If I cut off something in the corners, that will be used up for the other pies. You see, I'm trying to make it round a little bit. I have a hole in the middle, we don't want that. So let's see, I'm gonna have to stretch it this way a little bit more. I don't want a hole in it. Okay, here we go. So now it's big enough, I think. I'm gonna brush off, try to brush off the excess. So yeah, you want it to hang off your pie dish, obviously, so you can have enough to work with. And it will shrink, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut around this with a knife. Oops. If I had a sharper knife, that would have been good. There we go. And I'm not going to be fancy and fluted and all that. This is how it's going to be. And again, it will shrink in. So what I'm going to do is rest this in the fridge a little bit while I'm working on the others, and I'm going to bake them all, blind bake them first, and then I'm going to fill them. Do the 3 small ones, and they're going to be square actually. They're not going to be pie-like at all. And I have some extra ones, right? So this is almost enough for another one. So I'm going to divide it and work it into these little ones, like that. And you want to make it floury. So then what I'm doing next is this size. so I can put in the freezer. And I may or may not have a side, like it's not gonna go up on the sides. We'll see how big this turns out to be. So, making it that size again, sort of. Okay, that looks good. As you can see, it goes pretty quick. Really, it's not huge effort to roll these out. And then I'm just gonna kind of shape it so it's gonna have a little bit of side, not much, but that's okay. Put this in the fridge again. Again, I'm gonna use up the leftovers. It's almost long enough. Now I have to make it wide. Not gonna be pretty, but the main thing I want to do is make it kind of even in thickness. Okay. I want a little bit here. You can do this, you can patch it if some pieces are missing. Take a little dough and Play-Doh and do a little more. Oh, I can smell the bacon already. So that's number 2, and the last one. Attach that there. See what I just did there? Made it more square and more even. I just have to make it a little longer. And some extra on this corner. Now I'm gonna use this to patch the sides. You want to press that hard because otherwise it's gonna flake off in the process of baking. So don't be shy. Good. Into the fridge. So my bacon is done and my oven is heated also still. So I'm gonna put in my pie shells, bake them a little bit until baste that up. I would say about 15 minutes. Here are the small ones. It's been 15 minutes. The pie crusts are pre-baked. Oh, it's hot. I hope I can fit it on this baking sheet because it will be easier to take it out once it's filled. Oops, don't break it. Let's see. Because I don't want it to spill over, right? Okay, so let's start filling them. Did chop up some green onion while I was waiting for the pie crust to bake. I chopped up the bacon that I baked in the oven. Yeah, you can just use mayonnaise to do the bottom. Just spread it like if you were to butter your toast. Just use the mayo, just like that. Okay, that looks good. Now we can start layering our tomatoes. Here are the tomatoes that were squeezed out. And doesn't have to be pretty, but definitely layer it. I just feel like I never have enough tomatoes. To be honest, you don't even have to have a pie crust. You can make this into a casserole, because I've been eating these while I was waiting, and they're so good together, and you would not even miss the crust. Okay. Want to be able to distribute them evenly. Next, I'm gonna put a layer of the cheese mix. I'm just gonna try to I'm just doing one layer of everything today. But that's okay. It's a pie, it's not a lasagna, right? Try to divide this evenly. There we go. I'm gonna cover it all with cheese. because I want it to all melt on it over the tomatoes so they don't dry out. Next I'm gonna put bacon. And it's up to you. You can put the cheese on the top, put all the other layers below that. But it doesn't matter. It's gonna be so good. It has all the good stuff. Bacon, cheese, mayo, tomatoes, green onions. There we go. I'm gonna steal some from here. There you go. Trying to do evenly. I have a lot of green onions, so I'll be generous with that. It's one of the days. As I cook, I make my changes as I go, because really the cheese probably should have been on the top, but it's okay. It's sort of like pizza, right, where you put the cheese and then you put your toppings on the cheese mostly. That's the approach today. Instead of like a lasagna where you would have a cheese on the top. Okay. And probably the basil should have been buried so it doesn't burn, but we'll see. Basil, basil, basil. I have plenty of basil, and I do love basil. Let's use it all up. I want to just kind of brush it so it falls into the cracks as well. It's not all sitting on the top, right? Okay. I'm gonna bake this for 30 more minutes and then we'll check on it. See how that looks. Okay. 375. Be able to fit this in. Let's see. To move this rack. There we go. See you back in 30 minutes. Here are the pies out of the oven. I'm gonna cool these off and wrap them up with foil, freeze them. And this one I'm gonna cut up and try it out for you. Here's a slice of the tomato pie. Still should cool off a little bit, but look at that, the layer of cheese, melted cheese, tomatoes, bacon, green onions. Enjoy! See you next time!